Hi guys, welcome back or welcome to DreamWorks Switch to Life. And in today's video, we're going to be reviewing my personal favorite movie of all time, that of course being How to Train Your Dragon. I love the How to Train Your Dragon series. It is one of my favorite movie franchises of all time. I love it. And honestly, if you go see the movies for yourselves, you'll see why. Especially in the first movie. The first movie has the best cinematography of any DreamWorks movie I've ever seen. Well, either that or one of the best cinematographies, but it also has the best music of any DreamWorks movie. Just go play the How to Train Your Dragon soundtrack and you'll see what I mean. So the reason that I'm posting this video today is because it has officially been 14 years since the How to Train Your Dragon first released in theaters. This movie is really phenomenal, and honestly, it's going to be really hard for me to express it in words how much I love this movie. And you know what makes this movie even better? It has a 99% rating on Rotten Tomatoes from critics and 100% from audiences. If that doesn't say this movie is worth watching, I don't know what does. And honestly, it's not just this one movie. I love the entire franchise as a whole, especially when it comes to the TV shows. I think that out of all the TV shows DreamWorks has made based on their movies, the How to Train Your Dragon franchise has the best TV shows. Which probably explains why How to Train Your Dragon is DreamWorks' longest running franchise, at least in terms of runtime. Unfortunately, the franchise is over, and we're about to get the live-action How to Train Your Dragon remake, which, while I am looking forward to it, it's still a bit sad that the franchise is over, but at least it went out on a high note. Oh, and if you didn't know, this movie is actually based off of a 12-book series written by Cressida Cowell, which I really love. However, the movies and books are so different. It's like they're not even the same thing. Aside from character names, you would have no idea that these two were the same property. And to be honest, I love the movies more than the books, but again, the books are still worth reading if you can find them. With that said, this video is going to focus exclusively on the first movie, and I gotta say that if you haven't seen this movie, you've kind of wasted your life. This movie was awesome, and again, it's gonna be hard for me to express it in words, but that doesn't mean I'm not gonna try. So the movie is mostly about Hiccup, this scrawny teenage boy who has to find a way to prove himself to his village, who see him as a scrawny runt who can't take care of himself, especially when it comes to the dragon war that all of the Vikings are fighting. And this war has been going on for hundreds of years. Well, Hiccup finally gets the chance to prove himself when he shoots down a Night Fury, which, according to Viking myth, is the most powerful dragon of any of the dragon species out there.
The unholy offspring of lightning and death itself. Never engage this dragon. Your only chance, hide and pray it does not find you.
Which reminds me of another thing that I love about this movie. They actually dive into dragon lore and dragon specifics. They don't just give us Western dragons that you'd see in every single fantasy movie. They try to give us unique dragon species, and that's really amazing. You have Gronkles, Deadly Natters, the Hideous Zippleback, the Monstrous Nightmare, the Night Fury, the Terrible Terror, and of course the big bad of the movie, the Red Death. And of course, as the franchise continues, we see even more dragon species get introduced that are all unique to their individual characteristics, and I just love that. It doesn't go for generic dragons, it tries to introduce us to this new world that's carefully thought out, and I love it. So anyway, continuing with the story, Hiccup finds the Night Fury that he shot down and tries to kill it, but then he looks into the Night Fury's eyes and sees that there's a kind of humanity in them. It's not just a wild animal, there's a level of intelligence behind those dragon eyes. Hiccup looks in those eyes and he realizes that he can't kill this dragon, so he lets it go, which actually makes him the first Viking in 300 years to never kill a dragon. Which is even more disappointing when you consider the fact that he's actually the son of the chief, Stoic the Vast, which is really big deal because Stoic happens to be the best dragon killer in all of Berk.
They say that when he was a baby, he popped a dragon's head clean off of its shoulders. Do I believe it? Yes, I do.
Now, prior to this encounter, Hiccup has been trying to get a chance to prove himself as a dragon killer for a long time, and Stoic hasn't really given him that chance to prove himself. But after some convincing from Gobber the Belch, Stoic decides to sign Hiccup for the Dragon Killing Academy, which is a problem because at this point Hiccup has learned that he doesn't want to kill dragons, but he has to keep it a secret or he will risk being outcast from his own tribe. So, of course, Hiccup reluctantly goes into the Dragon Killing Academy, and of course his Viking peers just tease him for the fact that he's not really warrior material, so he goes out into the village where he finds the Night Fury, and unfortunately he discovers that the Night Fury has been wounded and he can't fly because Hiccup's trap actually broke his tail. And then Hiccup decides to try to fix that problem by befriending the Night Fury, making him a prosthetic tail. And of course, a bond of friendship is formed between the two, and Hiccup and Toothless have gone on to become one of the most iconic duos in all of cinema.
Huh. Toothless. I could have sworn you had... teeth.
And of course, hanging out with Toothless also gives Hiccup an insight on how dragons work, which actually helps him excel in the Dragon Killing Academy, using tactics that no Viking has ever thought of using before, and it shows that you can actually control a dragon without killing them. In a matter of days, Hiccup has gone from being the village loser to the village champion. But of course, that only means that Hiccup will have to be the first student at the Dragon Killing Academy to kill a dragon, which is a problem because Hiccup realized that these dragons, they're not monsters. They're actual living creatures that deserve to have a life, and that's really unfortunate. Not really knowing what to do, Hiccup decides to try to leave, only to be caught sneaking out by one of his Viking peers, Astrid. Now, at the start of the movie, we learn that Hiccup actually has a crush on Astrid, but of course, she's a warrior princess. There's no way that she's ever going to fall in love with him. And unfortunately, Hiccup's rising in the Dragon Killing Academy has made Astrid extremely jealous of Hiccup, and she's trying to figure out why he's getting so good all of a sudden. And unfortunately, she discovers the secret of Toothless, which means that now Hiccup has to show her exactly what's so great about Toothless, and he gets the chance to show that, and it's really amazing to watch unfold. But unfortunately, Hiccup, Astrid, and Toothless all end up stumbling across the dragon's nest, and they meet the Queen of Dragons, the Red Death. And the thing is, the Red Death is pretty much the cause of the Dragon War. For hundreds of years, she has been controlling the dragons and forcing them to attack the Vikings to take their livestock so that she can feast on them, which is a problem because if they don't bring enough food back, they will be eaten themselves. Hiccup and Toothless and Astrid manage to escape, but unfortunately, that still means that Hiccup has to kill a dragon tomorrow, or he has to prove that dragons aren't just monsters and that they are capable of making peace with these creatures, which is going well up until Stoic startles the monstrous nightmare and the monstrous nightmare goes into attack mode, which makes it so Hiccup is most likely gonna die if it weren't for the fact that Toothless ends up coming out of his hiding place to protect Hiccup by getting rid of the monstrous nightmare. But unfortunately, by doing that, Toothless ended up getting captured by the Vikings, at which point Hiccup's secret about trying to be friends with dragons and not trying to kill them ends up being revealed, and Stoic ends up disowning his son, which is really unfortunate. Hiccup tries to explain the situation with the Red Death, and unfortunately this ends up with Stoic learning that there's a way to find the dragon's nest and put an end to the dragon war once and for all. So he uses Toothless to lead them to the dragon's nest, where they will launch a full-scale attack to take down all of the dragons, which is a bit of a problem because there is no way they're prepared to take down the Red Death. So, Hiccup and Astrid end up gathering all of the Viking youths together to help train the dragons who are part of the Dragon Killing Academy, and thus the Vikings launch their attack against the Red Death, and of course they're underprepared for what is going to happen, and so then Hiccup and the Dragon Riders show up to help with the attack, and then they rescue Toothless off of the Viking ship. Well, they try to anyway, but Stoic, after realizing that dragons can be used as allies, ends up rescuing Toothless himself when Hiccup fails. This is one of the greatest father-son dynamics I've ever seen. Throughout the movie, we see that Stoic is really disappointed in his son, especially when Hiccup tries to change the way that the Viking order works. But of course, after seeing that this change can be good, Stoic not only rescues Toothless, but he also supports his son every step of the way after this movie. And throughout the franchise, we see that support continue on, and that's really amazing. Stoic is doing everything he can to protect his son at the start of the movie, but now Stoic believes that it's time to let his son spread his wings and fly, and he does everything he can to support him, and that's really cool to watch. Hiccup and Toothless fly up into battle against the Red Death, and they try to figure out its weaknesses, and eventually they discover that the best way to defeat it is with firepower, and of course, dragon skin is fireproof, but the inside of a dragon isn't. After lighting the insides of the Red Death on fire, the Red Death pretty much explodes, but unfortunately, Hiccup and Toothless are caught in the explosion, which results in near-death experience for both of them. This is why I really love the How to Train Your Dragon franchise. Even from the early steps, this franchise wasn't afraid to dive into consequences. In a lot of movies, we see the hero escape the final battle unscathed, but not in this one. In this movie, Hiccup ends up losing his leg, and that's really sad, but at the same time, it's really good because this movie dives into mature content, and it's really cool to watch. And yes, while this movie is made for kids, it's still really nice that it caters to adults, and especially that it helps kids learn that in real life, it's not always good. There are consequences to your actions, and sometimes you have to live with them. But anyway, the movie ends with Hiccup waking up with his prosthetic leg, and of course, he has to learn how to walk, but then he exits his house, at which point he discovers that he pretty much changed the world for the better. Now, dragons and Vikings are living in peace. They're not fighting, they're working together to create a better community, and that's really awesome. And thus the movie ends with a brighter future for Burke. And I gotta say, I loved this movie, and I love the How to Train Your Dragon franchise in general. It's really cool and amazing, and it's honestly no wonder why this is one of my favorite movies of all time. However, it is not my favorite movie, as my actual favorite movie is the sequel, How to Train Your Dragon 2, which I plan to do a review for in a couple months. But with that in mind, I hope that you guys enjoyed today's video, and please make sure to like and subscribe so you can keep up to date on all things DreamWorks. But above all else, make sure that you're staying safe out there, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye bye.
Excuse me, barmaid. I'm afraid you brought me the wrong offspring. I ordered an extra large boy with beefy arms, extra guts and glory on the side. This is a talking fish bone.
No, you're thinking about this all wrong. It's not so much what you look like, it's what's inside that he can't stand.
Thank you for summing that up.